Hello and welcome to Whether or Not. We have another great show for you today. Marissa will be in the studio with your weekend forecast. Michael will be talking about how weather impacts your health, and we have great nature in the news stories for you today. So sit back and relax because Whether or Not starts right now. Hello and welcome to Whether or Not. I'm your host, Veronica Dolan.
And I'm your forecaster, Marissa Lautenbacher.
Well, Marissa, we've been in a pretty damp and dreary pattern this past week. Are we looking to have any relief from that in the weekend?
Unfortunately not, Veronica. It's going to stay pretty damp this weekend, and we have been actually looking at a hurricane in the tropics, but whether or not that actually makes landfall, we still will experience a pretty wet weekend.
We'll be looking forward to more of that in your forecast, but now to our Nature in the News.
Heavy rounds of snow this September has thwarted the only expedition to Mount Everest this year. Nobukazu Kuriki attempted the trek up Everest last week, but over 2 feet of snow had fallen since Everest's base camp, which has caused the conditions along the mountain to deteriorate. Sherpas have been working to clear the paths before any climbers can even attempt to trek up the mountain. But unfortunately, Kuriki's journey was cut short as he stated that it was because the deep snow that halted his journey that he had to turn back around. Climbers wanting to attempt the peaks of Everest only have 2 opportunities a year, which are both dependent on monsoon seasons in Nepal. The opportunities exist only in the spring and the fall. During the late spring, monsoonal moisture in the form of heavy snow gets dumped on the summit. This past April, no climber had attempted the mountain due to earthquake causing deadly avalanches. Close monitoring of weather conditions is absolutely crucial and ever life-saving for those adventurous enough to even climb the ultimate mountain.
Landfills are brimming with more than twice as much of Americans' trash than the federal government first estimated. On average, Americans toss 5 pounds of trash per person a day into landfills. To determine the amount of trash sent to landfills over the past years, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency relied on estimates. Yale University researchers calculated new amounts predominantly based on weights using records from more than 1,200 landfills. They figured it was 289 million tons in 2012. For the same year, EPA estimated the figure to be 135 million tons. The Yale team calculated that in 2013, waste sent to landfills rose to 294 million tons. With 316 million people, that comes to 1,871 pounds per person in that year, the last for which there are figures. Data also shows that Americans aren't recycling as much as authorities thought. However, Americans don't seem to generate more trash than other cultures, and that 12.8% of the material that flowed into the landfill was construction and demolition debris.
Water is a critical element to sustain life on our planet, and it wasn't until just recently that scientists had confirmed that there is liquid water flowing along the surface of Mars. Many people have been raving about the discovery, and it brings up the critical question of, does life exist beyond Earth? Mars did at one point have lakes and rivers billions of years ago, but compared to now, its modern moisture is fairly modest. The red planet only has a small patches of damp soil, which isn't even close to a puddle. And multiple pictures have been taken by NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, showing streaks and channels that may have been cut into the Martian surface by the flowing water. One mystery has baffled scientists in which they don't even know where the water is coming from. And the theories are that it's either coming from above or below the surface of the planet. And the discovery of water has meant the possibility of finding microbial Martians. So the next step from NASA is to observe this phenomenon more closely with their next rover launch in 2020.
Our concrete jungles are overtaking the planet's natural green. There are approximately 3 trillion trees on Earth, 7.5 times the number previously estimated, but that figure has fallen roughly 48% since the beginning of human civilization, according to scientists from Yale University's School of Forestry and Environmental Studies. Trees are among the most prominent and critical organisms on Earth, yet we are only recently beginning to comprehend their global extent and distribution. Trees store huge amounts of carbon, are essential for the cycling of nutrients, for water and air quality, and for countless human services. What's clear is just how essential trees are to not only the planet's ecosystems, but also to human health. The number of trees on the planet has been cut in half, and the impacts on climate and human health are rising. The tree count study highlights how much more effort is needed if we are to restore healthy forests worldwide. And right after our Weather Whiz quiz, Marissa will be giving our weekend forecast.
Hello, I'm student meteorologist Marissa Lautenbacher here with your Central Pennsylvania forecast. But we're actually not starting out in Central Pennsylvania. We're looking at Hurricane Joaquin and whether that will have an impact for us this weekend. So it will be moving on up north from the Bahamas, and that will impact us whether or not will affect our amount of rainfall for this weekend. But we've had this low pressure system that's moved off the coast, and that's what's brought us our rainfall earlier on this week. But for this weekend, it's going to be stalling out right here, right off the coast, giving us more rainfall for Friday, and it's not going to move at all. Even on Saturday, it's still going to give us more rain over Friday, Saturday, and even on to Sunday. That's not moving at all, giving us saturated ground and possibly even flooding concerns. If Joaquin veers off into the west and makes landfall, that could lead to some flooding concerns for many of us, because we've had rain from the start of this week and even towards the end of this week. So for your weekend forecast for Friday, starting out 55 degrees, it's going to be wet and pretty cool. Our average around this time of year should be in the mid-60s. We will have this drearier rain around 45 degrees for Friday night, and then on Saturday, 54. Even that rain will continue from that stationary front, and not much of a temperature change even into Saturday evening. Temperatures around 52 degrees. And on Sunday, we'll be watching Joaquin and how much moisture that'll be bringing us. 61 degrees will be your high for the day. And so that's really what's going to be giving us most of our moisture, is that stationary front, and watching Joaquin, whether it'll be making landfall, giving us more rainfall totals than we would be experiencing with just the stationary front. That'll be leading us to flooding concerns. And now, Michael Priante with his feature on the weather and your health.
Nobody likes getting sick, especially during a very stressful and busy time of the year. And most Penn Staters can attest to that. However, this year is no exception. With the start of the fall semester in the books here at University Park, most Penn State students are now looking forward to finishing off the semester on a strong note. However, as the weather starts to change, so will the students. As the weather starts to cool down, with temperatures dropping through the rest of this month and into the start of October, along with the fact that most professors are now starting to assign more homeworks, projects, and even exams, it's no wonder that many students do not want to get sick and have to deal with sickness along with studying for exams and working on projects.
The common cold or the seasonal flu, getting sick is never a pleasant experience. With a large university like Penn State, it's pretty easy for a bug or bacteria to spread from person to person. At the start of the school year, temperatures are typical of a late summer month, but as the semester progresses forward, temperatures cool off and the trouble starts to begin. Viruses and bacteria are able to flourish in cooler environments, which make them more prone to surviving and spreading faster in transitional seasons like fall and spring. So why are we more prone to getting sick during these times? Well, when the weather fluctuates during these seasonal changes, viruses and bacteria can multiply and survive longer than in colder months. The body is also affected by the changes in temperatures, as the immune system has a hard time keeping up. Even getting drenched in a cold rain can help lower your immune system and leave you more prone to getting sick.
Whether you fall ill to the sickness or not, here's what you can do to help prevent the spread of germs and also how you can prevent getting sick yourself.
Washing your hands and staying away from those who are sick may be your best bet to combat getting ill. Eating healthy and staying active can also help build your immune system up during these transitional periods. To prevent getting the flu, it's recommended getting a flu shot, as this can limit your chances of receiving the virus. Be sure to tune in next week, as Veronica will go into more detail regarding this year's flu season. However, if you are sick or feeling like you are becoming sick, try and avoid close contact with friends and family, and also wash your hands multiple times during the day and cover your mouth when you cough. This way, you are doing your part to help spread future germs and limit the amount of the infected. For Whether or Not, I'm Michael Priante.
And now on to your extended forecast. Our main story is going to be the rain for this weekend. Temperatures should be around the mid-50s though, which is slightly below average. But the rain is mainly from the stationary front that is going to be stalled out along the East Coast, and possibly on Sunday, watching Joaquin and his potential track, whether it'll veer towards the west, giving us even more rainfall, more moisture in our area, which we do not need because we've been experiencing rainfall from earlier on this week and even throughout the weekend. So that's the main story for this weekend. And even moving on into next week, we will have a couple of showers even on into Monday. Temperatures, though, staying right around average, and we should be drying out, which will be a relief, as most of us probably don't want more rainfall giving us a lot the saturated ground, leading us to some possible flooding concerns for this weekend. But temperatures will be mainly right around towards average, and our average temperature should be around 65 degrees for this time of year.
Well, thanks, Marissa, for that forecast.
Well, we definitely are going to have a pretty wet weekend. That will impact our game against Army. It's going to be our fourth home game in a row, and that means it'll be our third game this season experiencing rain during that game. So make sure to keep your poncho packed.
And speaking of rain, now to our Weather Whiz quiz. Earlier in the show, we asked you how many inches of rain is considered a trace of rain. Is it A, less than 0.01 inches, B, less than 0.10 inches, C, less than 0.1 inches, or D, less than 0.001 inches? If you guessed A, you're correct, 0.01 inches.
Well, we definitely will experience a lot more than a trace of rain this weekend, as it will be fairly wet and soggy throughout the entirety of the weekend.
And that's all we have for today's show. I'm your host, Veronica Dolan.
I'm your forecaster, Marissa Lautenbacher.